fighting off the hordes of enemies one by one, from monsters with swords to huge birds. Enemies are a common thing in video games, and the same goes for The Legend of Zelda, so you know what that means. Let's do a top 5 enemies in the Legend of Zelda series. Number 5. There are a lot of classic Zelda enemies, and most of them are quite basic and boring. But there's one enemy that has something special in my opinion. The Moblin. They are pig-like or bulldog-like monsters belonging to the goblin race, which often resides in forests. They most often carry spears, but they're also known to carry swords, clubs and bow and arrows as well. While most Moblins are simply minions without much explanation, there are several exceptions of individual Moblins that appear in their game's story in some capacity. But the best looking and most awesome version of the Moblin is seen in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. The animation and design of the Moblin in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is, in my opinion, far out the best. It looks fitting, it looks good, it looks perfect. Let's be honest, they are classic, good-looking, fitting enemies for the Zelda franchise. This enemy has been in the Zelda games from the very beginning, and they are still around, for a good reason. Number 4. Now, when fighting enemies, you can expect anything, like dirty tricks or an unfair fight. But there's one type of attack that people always forget. An attack from the air. Kargaroks, the big, bad bird enemies. They are seen in 2 Zelda games. In The Wind Waker, they inhabit different places of the Great Sea. They are particularly known for nesting on Dragon Roost Island. Wild Kargaroks are protective of their nests and will attack those who get nearby. Their nests are often built on top of tall, narrow rocks. When they are not attacking, their voice is similar to that of a sheep. They also tend to not get along with seagulls, as they will attack any that wander too close to their nests. The Kargarok is one of the few creatures in the game that flies in wide sweeps around its territory, and will drop down on travelers from above and behind. When a Kargarok first sights a target, it makes an odd strangled noise, different from the bleating sheep sounds. This is a cue that the Kargarok is about to strike. But we also see them in Twilight Princess. They can be found flying around Hyrule Field and are also common in the City in the Sky and Hyrule Castle. In this incarnation, Kargaroks appear more leathery than feathered, and can also carry and drop bombs at some point in the game. These birds are, together with the bats, the most iconic flying enemies in the Zelda games. I used to hunt these enemies for sport. I would go out in Hyrule Field and shoot them down with the bow from far away, which was a lot of fun. I spent hours shooting down these birds, and I would always set certain challenges for myself. Yeah, I'm weird, I know, but thanks to that, I really started to love this enemy. Number 3. Now, skeletons are seen in almost every video game in history. Well, RPG games at least. And this isn't any different for the Zelda games. Stealthos. They are skeletal knights or soldiers common to dungeons and tombs. They vary differently in appearance and behavior in each installment, but generally share similar traits as undead enemies wielding swords or sometimes shields, or as athletic skeletons that attack with their bones or even skulls. Now, the best version of this enemy is seen in the legendary Zelda game Ocarina of Time, where they are seen in the Forest Temple, Ganon's Castle and some other places. Fado, a Kokiri girl who Link meets in the Lost Woods as an adult, explains the nature of Stealthos. She tells Link that all who become lost in the maze-like forest turn into Stealthos, suggesting that some of the Stealthos Link battles were once travelers. According to Fado, such a fate befalls Grog. The Stealthos are great enemies, this is because of their tactics. It gives the feeling of a real fight. Sure, this waiting and then striking mechanic is used a lot in the game, but it really fits this enemy. You have the feeling that you're in some sort of a sword fight, a real battle to the death. Wait for his guard to drop and then you can strike. Number 2. These armor-clad soldiers are tough. Use your shield and rolling skills to find an opening in their defense. The Darknut. They are slow-moving yet powerful knights, best known for their defensive capabilities. Typically, the thick armor and sturdy shields of Darknuts render them nearly impervious of frontal attacks, forcing their opponents to circle around and strike from behind. Their movement patterns also tend to be quite a challenge. Sometimes their armor may be removed, revealing the creature underneath, which changes from game to game. Now, I'm a real fan of difficulty in games like The Witcher, Dark Souls and more. And this is why I really like the Darknuts. It's all because of the fight they put up. They are a bit more of a challenge than the other enemies. This mostly goes for the Dark Nuts in the 3D Zelda games like the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. The best fight I ever had with Dark Nuts was in the Wind Waker for certain. I'm talking about the fight in the Wind Temple, of course. You know what I mean. Number 1. And now for the number 1. The big, the evil, the darkest and most known enemy in the Zelda games. The Iron Knuckle. They are depicted as knights clad in thick, heavy armor, wielding huge axes or any other large weapons. They are among the strongest of enemies in the series, possessing a high tolerance to attacks and delivering large amounts of damage when fighting. Due to their strength, Iron Knuckles are typically very rare at the game's outset, and become more common only as Link's journey progresses through the game. These enemies are at the top of my list for a good reason. Like I said, I love difficulty. The pacing of the battle with an Iron Knuckle is amazing. It looks awesome, it looks badass, it's perfect. The first time I fought the Iron Knuckle was in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and it was great. It's a slow but hard-hitting enemy, which you have to focus on. It's the Dark Nut version, but with steroids. Great that you're still here. You can click on the videos on the screen to watch other videos, and why not subscribe, so you won't miss a thing.